I came to New York looking for work, not trouble. That sounds almost funny, doesn't it? But it's the honest, pathetic truth. My life had always been governed by logic, by the predictable flow of blueprints, and the satisfying click of precise measurements. I was an engineer, a project lead, proficient in the silent language of structures and stress tests, far less so in the chaotic, unpredictable realm of human interaction. After years on large-scale construction projects, the opportunity arose for a new assignment, a relatively isolated survey in a remote part of Georgia. I figured it would be quieter, simpler. A place where the biggest threat might be a missed measurement. I was wrong, of course. Quiet doesn't always mean safe. Sometimes, quiet just means no one can hear you scream. I kept to myself, as usual. My default setting. I'm not good with people. Never have been. Eye contact feels like an interrogation. Every casual conversation, a minefield of unspoken social cues, I invariably trip over. I've always preferred the company of my thoughts, the silent hum of machinery, the predictable patterns of engineering. My last boss, a man whose patience was as thin as his hair, once famously quipped that I had the social instincts of a soggy traffic cone. He wasn't wrong. A traffic cone. Yet, despite my innate awkwardness, a significant new project led me to Blackwood Creek, Georgia. I was the lead engineer on a crucial survey of a recently constructed tunnel. A complex infrastructure task that would take about a month to meticulously check every detail, every rivet, every support beam. I needed an apartment for that duration, fast. From the moment my tired car crunched onto the gravel roads leading into Blackwood Creek, a prickle of raw, unadulterated unease settled in my gut. It wasn't just the isolation, though the ancient oaks lining the streets seemed to lean in, their gnarled branches twisting like accusatory fingers against a bruised sky. It was as if the very air itself was thick with unspoken warnings, the wind rustling through unseen leaves whispering, "Go away from here." I spent the entire day asking locals about renting a place, showing them my company ID, trying to project in an air of confident professionalism that felt utterly false. But every face I met, every polite or curt refusal, carried the same unspoken message, a strange hesitance, a quick dart of the eyes away when I mentioned staying for a month. More than once, as I vaguely gestured towards the oldest part of town, where the house ultimately stood, a few locals actually warned me, "Don't rent from that old granny down the lane, son. You'll find more than just a room there." Their words, delivered in hushed tones, only solidified my confusion and made the idea of that specific house feel even more like a forbidden territory. A place no sensible person would willingly approach. As dusk deepened, painting the sky in purples and grays that looked eerily like fresh bruises, weariness finally defeated my stubborn resolve. My shoulders slumped, my brain felt like static, and I simply needed a place to rest. I sank onto the crumbling, moss-covered steps of an old, neglected house at the very edge of town, its dark windows staring out like empty eyes. The air was growing cold, carrying the damp scent of unseen creaks and decaying leaves, a smell that clung to my clothes. I pulled my knees up, resting my chin on them, just wanting to disappear. It was around 6 p.m. when a shadow detached itself from the gloom of the porch next door. An old woman, her frame surprisingly spry for her apparent age, with eyes that seemed to hold more shadow than light, approached me. She moved with an unsettling quietness, her slippers making no sound on the rough ground. "Go away from here," she rasped, her voice like dry leaves skittering across pavement, brittle and unwelcoming. "Don't sit here." I, startled by her sudden appearance and harsh tone, quickly scrambled to my feet, mumbling an apology. My ingrained shyness made it impossible to meet her gaze directly. As I turned to leave, her hand shot out, her grip surprisingly firm on my sleeve. Her fingers felt cold, like old bone. "Why were you sitting here?" she asked again, her voice low, almost a hiss, her unnervingly direct gaze boring into me. I explained, my words tripping over each other. About needing an apartment for a month for my tunnel survey project, a temporary solution. Her eyes seemed to glimmer in the fading light, a flicker of something unreadable. Was it cunning? Hunger? Or was it, for just a fleeting second, a hint of profound, weary sadness, quickly masked? "I have an empty room," she said, her voice dropping to a low, conspiratorial tone that made the hairs on my arms stand on end. "I can lend you the room, cheap rate, one condition." She leaned closer, her face a web of deep wrinkles, her breath smelling faintly of camphor and something else. Something cloying and sweet, like old flowers, but with an underlying hint of damp earth and something subtly metallic. "You must not go to the second floor." Her grip tightened slightly on my sleeve, a silent, chilling emphasis on her words, as if the very thought of me ascending those stairs was anathema. As she released me, I thought I saw a subtle tremor in her hand, a flicker of fear in her own shadowed eyes, quickly masked, before she turned to lead me inside. Despite the creeping unease, despite the unspoken warnings from the locals and the profoundly unsettling aura of the old woman, the sheer desperation for a place to stay outweighed my apprehension. This was my last resort. I took the apartment. It was old, far older than anything I'd ever lived in, and the moment I stepped inside, a heavy, stagnant air seemed to press in on me. The floorboards groaned under my weight, each step accompanied by a crackling sound, as if the house itself was sighing, protesting my presence. Something didn't feel right, not just the physical age of the place, but a subtle hum in the air, a persistent prickle on my skin that felt like static electricity or unseen eyes. The old woman, whose name I still hadn't caught, shuffled into the room. "Do you want to eat something?" she asked, her voice a little less raspy now, but still flat, devoid of any warmth. I mumbled, then managed to articulate a shaky "yes, please." She returned shortly, carrying a sandwich on a rusty, chipped enamel plate that smelled faintly of metal and something else, a foul, stagnant odor that reminded me unsettlingly of old, dirty water, like a forgotten well, or something left to putrefy. I forced myself to eat quickly, trying not to breathe through my nose, my appetite suppressed by the bizarre serving and the strange scent. Afterwards, I desperately needed a shower, to wash away the accumulated grime, and, more importantly, the pervasive feeling of unease. The bathroom was small, tiled in a murky brown, and felt unnervingly sticky. Underfoot, as if a thin, cold residue clung to everything. A damp, mildewy stink filled the air, thick and cloying, mingling with that faint, metallic scent that seemed to permeate the entire house, hinting at something deep within its ancient foundations, something rusted and decaying. But in my sheer exhaustion and the desperate need to feel clean, I endured it, scrubbing quickly under the lukewarm, faintly sulphurous water. That night, lying in the narrow bed, wrapped in thin, musty sheets that smelled faintly of dust and something vaguely sweet, I felt like something was watching me. Not just an imagined presence, but a distinct pressure, a chilling weight on my back, as if unseen eyes were boring into me from the deepest corners of the room. The hairs on my neck stood on end, not from a draft, but from the sensation of being intensely observed. The darkness felt deeper, thicker than normal. A heavy blanket that absorbed even the faint glow from the digital clock on my phone, making it seem impossibly far away. Every creak of the old house, every whisper of the wind outside the rattling window pane, seemed amplified, turning into a symphony of unsettling sounds, groans and sighs and faint, almost imperceptible scraping sounds from the floor above, like something being dragged across bare wood. The floorboards directly over my head seemed to groan with an unnatural weight, distinct from the usual settling of an old house. I pulled the thin blanket tighter, feeling sudden, fleeting pockets of extreme cold pass through the I told myself it was just exhaustion, my nerves frayed from the long drive and the strange day, my mind playing tricks. I squeezed my eyes shut, willing sleep to come, to provide an escape. I must have drifted off eventually, a fitful, shallow sleep, haunted by ill-defined shadows and the lingering sensation of being intensely observed. The next morning, I woke unusually early, the first slivers of dawn barely piercing the thick mothy-toned curtains. The oppressive feeling lingered, a cold residue in the air, making me feel like I hadn't slept at all. My priority was finding someone to fix my car. As I approached it, something felt fundamentally off. Not just that it wouldn't start, but a subtle hum seemed to emanate from its engine even when it was off, a faint, almost electrical buzz that made the hairs on my arms prickle. It was as if the car itself was trying to warn me. I set out on foot, walking down what passed for the main street, a short stretch of dilapidated storefronts and quiet homes. After a bit of searching, guided by the distant clang of metal, I found a small garage, a ramshackle place with tools spilling out onto the dirt lot like spilled guts. A man emerged from under a raised hood, wiping grease from his brow with a rag. He had a bright, genuine smile that instantly put me a little more at ease, a welcome beacon in this unsettling town. "Morning there, stranger. Harry's the name. What can I do for ya?" he boomed. "John," I managed, extending a hesitant hand. "My car. It's parked near that old building at the corner of town. It won't start, and ... something just feels wrong with it." Harry's smile faltered, just for a second. His eyes, though still kind, seemed to lose a fraction of their light. "That old building," he repeated, his gaze flicking away, towards the direction I'd indicated. A shadow seemed to pass over his friendly face, a fleeting grimace. "You staying there, son?" "Just for a month," I said, my voice trailing off, already anticipating another warning. He leaned against a tire, crossing his arms, his posture suddenly rigid. His voice dropped, losing its cheer, becoming low and gravely. "If you're staying there, listen to me, John. Do not go to the second floor. No matter what happens, no matter what you hear." His eyes locked onto mine, now filled with an intensity that brooked no argument. I agreed to what he said, nodding quickly, my throat suddenly dry, but inside, a tiny, rebellious spark of curiosity ignited. The explicit warning, so direct after the vague evasions of others, only made the forbidden floor more alluring, a challenge my logical mind, despite my fear, yearned to unravel. Harry then told me, "I'll fix the car and text you when it's done, but you have to pay the full amount in advance." Despite a flicker of unease at the request, I agreed. He took my car key and my phone number. Then, with a practiced ease that was almost unnerving, he produced a blank key and swiftly cut a temporary copy for himself. "I won't disturb you while you're busy in your day, John," he said, holding up the new key with a reassuring smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "I made a temporary copy of your key, so I can fix it while you're working without needing to come inside that old building. Plus, I always keep a spare key from every car I repair. It's part of my collection, you see. Then I'll message you." I was nervous, my anxiety flaring, as he made a copy of my car key. It felt like a small violation of my already fragile privacy, a strange intrusion into my life. But due to my ingrained introvert emotions, my face automatically plastered on a smile, a nervous twitch that usually passed for agreement, and I simply nodded my head, unable to vocalize my discomfort. Dismissing the strange encounters, or at least trying to, I spent the rest of the day exploring the small, sleepy town. I ate at a local diner, the food surprisingly decent, and tried to focus on the details of my tunnel project, sketching out tunnel schematics on a napkin. But the old woman's warning and Harry's grave words kept circling in my mind like persistent flies, their whispers, louder than my own thoughts. As evening crept in, painting the sky in the same bruised hues as the night before, I walked back to the apartment, the old building looming silently in the twilight. Its upper floor, a dark, intriguing mystery, a magnetic void.